Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is tournament time. My name is Terrence Oglesby. I have my main man, Fax and Childress. We got a good episode here today. Clemson gets into the tournament, 7 seed, big time. I love their bracket. We're going to talk a lot about that moving forward today. But there's also some other things. We're going to bring up who we're going to pick for the Final Four. We're going to pick up an upset apiece. Faxon's going to pick one. I'm going to pick one. We're going to explain why we think that's going to be the case. And we're also going to do a look back. Why are we going to do a look back? Because the first 4 episodes of the year, we were talking a lot about, how we project this season to go. We actually came a whole lot closer than what we thought. This should be good to go. We have pictures. We're going to have basically a full breakdown of all tournament teams, or not all tournament teams, all conference teams throughout the year. And my man Faxon, he finally sat down. He's finally comfortable. He's ready to go. He's tucked his shirt in. Faxon, how are you? Best time of the year.
I'm fantastic. This is what the entire show is built up to. This is the best, absolute best time of the year. It makes it even better that Clemson got a favorable bracket with Rutgers in the first round and then potentially the winner of Houston, and I think it's Cleveland State in the second round. So I'm very excited for what the Tigers have drawn in the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to give a shout out to the committee. Thank you. I feel like we haven't gotten those favorable draws in the past, but this is a good draw.
Yeah, we're going to look ahead to Rutgers for sure, but if you look at the bracket that Clemson's in, I think it's very favorable to what the type of game that you play. Rutgers, a team that doesn't necessarily shoot the ball well. It's a team that defends at a high level, gritty, quote-unquote gritty, just like Clemson is, but 2 guys that can really score, Ron Harper Jr. and Jacob Young, a Texas transfer, both averaging 14 points a game, and a 7-footer who is giving other teams problems. 9 rebounds a game. I'm going to let you talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, we're talking about Miles Johnson. Provides 9 boards a game like he was talking about, almost 3 blocks per game. I want to say he was the leading shot blocker in the entire Big Ten this year. It was him and Kofi Cockburn for Illinois, who I'm sure we will be talking about later in the show, as I know what our Final Four predictions are. But this Rutgers team is not a team to be slept on. They're very similar to Clemson from a perspective of they struggle scoring the ball, but they're going to give you a tough time on defense. They're going to play good defense, especially interior defense is great with Johnson.
And they have a lot of different guys who can score. 5 guys, at least 8 points a game. But like I said, not a team that necessarily shoots the ball well from the perimeter. Clemson has been elite this season. Not good, Faxon. They've been elite at guarding actions. Rutgers is going to run some complicated actions, but the thing that scares me the most, Jacob Young can score on his own. Ron Harper can score on his own. And if you look back to the tournament game against Miami, that's what Clemson has really struggled with all season long, whether it's Jose Alvarado at Georgia Tech, whether it's anybody else. That's the kind of team that gives Clemson problems.
Yeah, and, if at the end of the day, if they're going to make tough contested shots like Wong and some of these other guys on Miami were, there's not a lot the Tigers can do. As long as they stay engaged on defense for the entire game, I think they've got a really good chance to win this game. As we were saying, this is a very similar team to Clemson. They don't have a three-point shooter that consistently plays that shoots over 35%. Nobody on this team is a lethal shooter from downtown, and that includes Young and that includes Harper, who are the 2 premier scorers on this team. So this isn't going to be a game where Clemson gets barraged in by 3-pointers, as we saw as they did against Georgia Tech and some other teams over the course of the AC season. This is a team that's going to be more attacking by getting to the mid-range. Harper and Young are going to try to get to their spots on the court and feed it inside for Johnson for some finishes inside. So Clemson's really going to have to do a good job, number 1, guarding the interior, and number 2, making sure they're crashing the defensive glass and not letting Miles Johnson clean up around the rim.
Well, you're absolutely right. 2 points I wanted to make. This is a huge game for Clemson's bigger wings, the John Newmans of the world. Alex Hemingway is going to have to spot guard some of these really athletic players that can get shots. And Hunter Tyson, who has played really well against Pitt, and Justin Champagnie, he's going to need to have that type of defensive performance in order for the Tigers to have success. He is capable defensively of doing that. However, Ron Harper Jr. has been a problem all year. He looks a little out of shape. I'm not going to lie to you, Fax. He looks a little out of shape, kind of picks his spots, chooses where he's going to be, but he always finds ways to score, and he does it because he's got a quick first step and a very reliable jumper.
Yeah, and Harper is, I don't want to say he's similar to Isaiah Wong, but they do kind of play the same game as far as they're going to break you down off the dribble. They want to get you in a one-on-one spot, and then they're going to elevate and get to their spots in the mid-range. But I'm just personally,
Jacob Young will do that a lot.
Jacob Young will he'll break you down 1v1. So this is just a big game for Almir Dawes. This is a big game for Nick Honor. And this is a big game where they're going to have to stay engaged on defense, and they're going to have to make sure they're at least getting a hand in the face. Because, when you see a team that's poor from three-point land, you might be like, oh, it's a break. It really isn't a break from the perspective of that just means you've got to be so engaged on anything inside the three-point line and interior that it's almost mind-boggling because this team's not going to make 10 threes. They're not going to make 10 threes. It's just not going to happen.
No, I mean, a lot of people are picking Rutgers. I think this is a game that Clemson can play well in. It's a game where some of the pieces fit well. And what do I mean by that? The center for Rutgers, that's the kind of guy that Amir Sims has played well against all year. 6'11", 265 pounds. If he's able to pull him out and stretch the defense a little bit and beat Rutgers with his passing, beat Rutgers with some of his perimeter shooting, that's the kind of player that he's had success with all season long. I like Clemson in this game. It's going to be highly contested. It's two teams that don't shoot it well. It's going to come down to defensive rotations, and it's going to come down to rebounding. And you're going to have to find ways to create easy opportunities. Clemson's been able to force turnovers. When they've been able to force turnovers, they've been really good.
We've got a comment coming in, a question from the comment section coming from Chad Roper, and he said, who do you think the primary assignment will be on Harper? And he's asking if John Newman is ready for that assignment.
I think John Newman's still going to come off the bench. I would assume that you're going to start the game off with either Alex Hemingway. It depends on if they have Harper at the 4 or not.
Yeah.
If they have Harper at the 4, it's going to be Hunter Tyson because he's done a nice job defensively all year.
He has.
You have to have John Newman play well. If Harper's going to play the 3, Newman better play well. But they have McCulley playing the 3 for the most part. Paul McCulley, I believe. He plays the 3 for the most part. Ron Harper Jr., it's going to fall on the shoulders of Hunter Tyson, who has really been able to guard at a high level.
I got to say, I have the utmost confidence that Hunter Tyson can do a great job because personally, I think that Hunter Tyson had Justin Champagnie in shackles the last time they played. When we played against Pitt in that last game of the regular season, Hunter Tyson did a fantastic job on Champagnie all night, who is not an easy guard by any means. I know it's a different type of player, but around the same height, can both get to the basket, can both score, and Hunter did a fantastic job and poured in 16 points on Pitt as well. So if Hunter Tyson's going to play like he did, as we saw towards the tail end of the season, and he had a quiet, good game against Miami as well, then Clemson will be in a really good shape going into this game against Rutgers.
If they win this game, if you're going to pick a 2 seed to play against, I think Houston's the one you want to do it against. Quentin Grimes, 17.7 points a game, a couple of other players in double figures. However, they haven't played a whole lot of players all year, or a whole lot of really good teams all year. The American's good, not great, but the way Quentin Grimes plays, he tries to shoot over the top, and he forces rotations. Clemson has been elite as far as rotations are concerned. That's somebody they may be willing to guard. And you're looking at a 2 seed, that's a winnable game for Clemson.
When I saw the first bracket and it came out against Rutgers, my first thought was, okay, let's go. This is a good draw. My second thought was, who's the 2 seed going to be? Like, that was immediately in my mind was like, what 2 seed are we going to get? Because at that point, I think the only 2 options left were that Houston or Ohio State. I'm like, not Ohio State. Please give me Houston. And Clemson got a favorable draw and got Houston. This is not demeaning Houston. I'm not saying Clemson's going to beat Houston. But if there is a team from that upper echelon of teams that you want to get in a 2 seed draw, Houston's the ideal draw.
We didn't want Bama.
We didn't want Bama or OSU.
No.
Those would have both been nightmares, in my opinion.
Yeah, that would have been tough. And the other 2 seed was Iowa.
So
if I had to pick one above all the other ones,
Houston.
Iowa would have been able to shoot over the top. Alabama's been playing unbelievably well. I know Clemson beat them at the beginning of the year, but that was before they put Herb Jones at the point.
Yeah.
They were still playing Quinterly at the point whenever Clemson played them in Atlanta. That was a serious change because Quinterly, you move him off the ball, becomes the scorer that he is. Jones kind of a hands-off type, or he's going to break you down. He wants to get rid of it. SEC Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year in that conference. Pretty good.
And we got a comment coming in from Hart Rayleigh, and he says, Sims has to pull the center out, and we must attack the boards and basket. We are far better when we go aggressive to the rack. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you have to get in the paint. Hart, you're absolutely right. You have to get them in the paint, and you can't settle for threes early. Clemson's been much better all season when they're able to go inside out and not outside in. 22 to 24. I've been pretty consistent in saying this, Faxon. 22 to 24, 25 threes. That's Clemson's sweet spot. Whenever you start shooting more than that, you're settling.
When you get in the 30s, it starts to be reckless, and especially against a team like this. Like, I personally agree with Hart wholeheartedly. Amir's got to be able to get the ball at the top of the key because Syracuse is going to play you man. We're not getting zone. We're going to get man from Syracuse or from Rutgers. My fault. We're going to get man from Rutgers. And if Sims can have the ball at the top of the key, number one, I think he's quicker than Miles Johnson, and I think he's got an ability to beat him off the dribble, as we see in some of these big centers.
Well, he's played well. Like if you look back against Nasir Brooks, He's played well. You look back against who are the other behemoths in the conference? There's not many. He has been able to play well individually.
He had 2 good offensive games against Moses Wright, who was the player of the year as well.
And then you look at NC State, played okay. Didn't have great numbers, but was still able to enforce some things as far as pushing guys away and control the offense. Not necessarily always with the ball, but facilitating.
He's getting people open.
Exactly right. And he's very good at that if he's able to drag people away from the basket. That's perfect. That's exactly what Hart said, and he's exactly right. So I'm pretty happy about that. Thank you, Hart, for your question. Also, Final Four. I want to talk. I want to talk about those 8 teams. They're capable of beating all 8 of those teams on a given night. If we're going to talk about who all they could play, on the other side of that 8-team bracket, San Diego State, winnable. Cuse, obviously winnable. West Virginia is the one that kind of worries me. Not because West Virginia is so tough physically this year, because they're not. Because Bob Huggins went the other direction. This West Virginia team can really score it, and I'll be honest, I have West Virginia beating Clemson in the round of 16.
I'm hoping that the Syracuse SDSU winner beats West Virginia. Or maybe Moorhead pulls a miracle. There's absolutely 0% chance of that happening.
But there's a chance.
You think that
Johnny Brooms is pretty good, and they're 15-1 since they played Clemson. Think about that.
Well, Clemson blew them out.
And they beat a very good Belmont team in the championship of the OVC. That's significant.
So you think
I'm not saying I think Moorhead State's very good. I think they defend at a high level. And I think they defend confidently. You don't see it happening at all.
I cannot see it. That's the one. Maybe I think West Virginia is very good, and but if
Preston's my boy too, it doesn't really help things.
If Cuse wins, I think Cuse could give West Virginia some issues. If they can stay sound enough on the glass, they got to have Gary have a good game on the glass against West Virginia because they're going to be putting up shots, but. Man, the way that Cuse was playing basketball at the end of the year was really encouraging for me. I have them beating San Diego State, and Buddy Boeheim just absolutely came on massive at the end of the season. He was dropping 20 every other game, it felt like. I think he had 31 against Virginia. He had 27 or whatever against Clemson. So he's playing some great basketball right now.
Yeah, and they're shooting. Not only him, but Joe Girard's played well. Kadary Richmond's come into his own. Quincy Garrio's been good. Alan Griffin. I didn't even mention him. He's been fantastic all season. It's entirely possible that you see Cuse in the 3rd round. It's happened before. It hasn't happened with those two. I'm talking about in intra-conference during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
it happens. But it's going to be tough to get past that West Virginia team that shoots it so well. That's my biggest concern. They defend. They're tough. It's going to be hard. Huggy's got a good team up in Morgantown. You been to Morgantown?
I've not.
They burn couches on fire up there for fun.
That sounds like a interesting environment.
Yeah, you're not in college yet. You'll figure that out one day. A little bit too crazy, if you will. But, hey, neither here nor there. Moving on. I want to talk Final Four. I'm excited about Final Four. I've caught a lot of flack for my Final Four picks. Gonzaga. A lot more than to be honest with you, what I'm comfortable with. I had to fight off some people when I decided I wasn't going to put Gonzaga in there.
Listen.
I made this reference earlier. Look, whenever you lift weights, Faxon, I don't know how much weights you lift, but whenever you lift weights, you get calluses on your hand. Get a lot of calluses. Gonzaga hasn't picked up a weight heavier than 10 pounds since January. There's no calluses on those hands, baby. Iowa's got calluses on those hands. Illinois has calluses on those hands. It's going to be tough. And I can see, let me just pull it up. Let me just pull up my Final Four guys right here. TO's Final Four. You see it over my right shoulder, your left portion of the screen. Boom. I like Iowa, and not necessarily because I think they can beat Gonzaga. I don't think they're going to beat Gonzaga. I think they're going to have to beat either Virginia or Missouri or Oklahoma. It's going to be one of those.
You think Gonzaga is going out in the round of 32 or something?
I think it's entirely possible because they haven't played anybody.
Dude.
It's entirely possible. Missouri, let me tell you this. Missouri.
T.O., man.
10 players. They play 10 players, 9 of which are juniors and seniors. This is a veteran-laden team. They're going to be able to control tempo, and they're tough as nails.
How many of those players are better than Jalen Suggs, Corey Kipser, or Drew Timme? Or even Nimhard? Or any of the guys that come off Gonzaga?
Well, tell me this. How do you think Missouri would have won the West Coast? Yes.
That's an unfair question.
The answer is yes.
That's an unfair question.
The answer is yes.
That's an unfair question.
So where Missouri, instead of being an 8 seed, they're probably like a 3 seed if they win the West Coast. Come on, man. We're being serious right now.
That's an unfair question.
We're being serious. And the teams they beat in December, January, back into November. I don't think they had any games back then.
So where do you think
Teams have gotten better.
Where do you think Clemson would fare in the West Coast Conference?
They would win it this year. They'd beat BYU. If you took Gonzaga out and replace them with Clemson, put Gonzaga in the Atlantic Coast Conference, they're a top-tier team. But at the same time, Clemson, they would win the West Coast Conference.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Is it?
Enough.
How many teams in the ACC would win the West Coast Conference?
Well,
6.
So Clemson would win it. Virginia would win it. Florida State would win it. Virginia Tech would win it. Georgia Tech would win it. And then once you get in the UNC Duke range, that's when it starts getting iffy for me.
Give me Oklahoma. If they play Gonzaga, I think there's a chance. Austin Reeves, 17.7 points a game, one of the best point guards in the country, has the height to play with Suggs. He's not going to be overwhelmed. He's going to control tempo. You control tempo against this Gonzaga team, you can get them. There's no way possible Gonzaga goes undefeated over the course of the year. Hasn't happened since 1975. Sean May ain't walking through them doors. Sean May ain't walking the senior. Sean May Sr. ain't walking through them doors.
We'll see, man.
We'll see.
I'm going to rock with the Zags.
So I'm going Iowa. I'm going Iowa in that bracket, not necessarily because I think they can beat Gonzaga. I think it's because Gonzaga hasn't really had to battle anybody. It's going to be a shock to their system, and they're going to be caught sleeping. That's where I'm going there.
So
in the other bracket.
You don't think that BYU game at the West Coast Championship Final, when they were down 15 at one point, you don't think that was their wake-up moment?
That was an appetizer.
That was an appetizer.
It's still BYU. Like they're a 6 seed. They're a good team, sure, but.
Oh, man.
Do you think Gonzaga's going to run right through, too?
I really do. I think that team's just too talented.
I got your Final Four next. Let me finish mine. So we got Baylor, who has struggled of late. That worries me. I think Ohio State could win that region. Without question, I think they could. Baylor has not looked like the same team. They're doing a lot more isolation stuff as opposed to the beginning of the year where they were moving the ball. It was popping around. They were all shooting threes. Now they're starting to break some people off the dribble. Baylor worries me, because they've only lost one, and now they're playing better defensively, but offensively they're just not flowing like they were at the beginning of the year. Alabama. I like Alabama because I think Michigan's going to get beat in the second round.
You think Michigan's losing that 8-9?
I think Michigan's losing to LSU in the second round because LSU has talent. They're starting to guard, and they're playing well at the right time. Not to mention
Will Wade,
Clemson grad. Nobody wants to claim Will Wade, which is interesting enough. Will Wade, Clemson grad, recruited me a little bit. It's got guys that can score the basketball. They've got athletes, and Isaiah Livers is not going to be playing for the Wolverines. That's a bigger blow than I think people realize. If he doesn't play.
Yeah, Livers is their second best player. You can make an argument for best player. I could definitely see the LSU upset, and I think my pick in this bracket as well. I have Alabama in my Elite Eight. This team's playing just as good basketball as anyone. They just had a classic game go down to the wire against LSU, so Bama is definitely not a bad shout at all.
I like Bama. I like Florida State in that region.
Yeah.
I think that Florida State is going to have too much length. It's going to bother a lot of teams until they get to Alabama because Herb Jones is kind of the same guy Scotty Barnes is, except he's a little bit better at this stage in his career. As far as seeing the defense, probably a better defender at this stage of his career. Florida State could definitely make a push, but I'm going Alabama because they have so much shooting on the perimeter, and they play today's game. Dunks or threes. It's one or the other, and they've got a lot of guys who can do it. My champ, I'm just going to there it is.
That's a good pick.
Illinois. It's a good pick. Top 7 in the country in both offense and defensive efficiency. Only 3 teams have that, top 10 in offense and defense. Gonzaga, Illinois. Who's the other one? Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan's 7 and 6.
Yeah, Michigan's missing their dude. So, give me Illinois.
Okay.
I like. Is it Kofi Cockburn or Kofi Cockburn?
It's Kofi Cockburn. Him and Ayu Dosunmu.
Ayu Dosunmu. I'll give you that one.
Dosunmu.
But here's the thing when it comes to Final Four and the tournament in general. You better be physical, you better be big, and you better be able to rebound. That's number one, just to keep yourself in the game. Secondly, you better have somebody who can create your own shot. It's so heavily scouted when you get to that point in the year. Everybody's shown what they're going to do.
You're not going to be able to run your sets.
There's nothing different. Everybody's shown what they're going to do. Look for the teams with guys who can break you down off the bounce to be successful. Illinois has that. Give me Illinois all the way through, beating Alabama in the title game.
Your Final Four criteria was pretty much the anti-Clemson formula. You're like, you got to have big guys that can grab rebounds and people that can score individually.
Hey, that's where we're at. Well, that's what happens when I played in a tournament. It'd be a lot of ticky-tack stuff, and then or it'd be a lot of ticky-tack stuff through ACC season. You get to the tournament, they got to stay on a schedule because they have so many games.
Yeah.
They're getting you in and out. They're not calling a lot of fouls. You better be physical. I remember Villanova being extremely physical, especially in the second half when we played them.
Yeah.
Like, that was an issue for us. But give me Illinois. Big boys, a guy who can create. Kofi Cochran's I'm a fan. Baranishvili, I'm a fan. Shooters all around the court, I'm a fan. Give me Illinois and Brad Underwood, even though he's not running the spread offense this year. He's forcing his other guys to, create at what they're good at, which is important. But for you, let's go with Faxon's guys. I just gave him different colors. Figured I'd give him that's who he's got, ladies and gentlemen. He's going Texas Tech, which I think is pretty significant given a couple of coaching vacancies here lately.
I'm taking Gonzaga to win it all over Illinois, so we're in agreement with the Illinois love, and they could very easily win the title. That's not a bad pick at all. I have them in my national title game. I'm taking Florida State surely due to the fact that they have so many guys that can create, like you were talking about creating offense, and then they've also got Boavica inside. They're physical. Scotty Barnes can play wherever position you need him to, and he's matured and he's come on a lot. His assist-to-turnover ratio has vastly improved over the course of the season. Leonard Hamilton, it's the Chief OG, and it's March. You can't doubt Chief OG in March. He's going to get his team to the Sweet 16 minimum. That's a given. I have them knocking off Michigan when they end up playing, and then but I do think LSU could also get Michigan as well in that second round, and then I've got them beating Bama in the Elite Eight. I could see Bama winning that game as well. So, and 3 of these 4 brackets were pretty much on the same. And then I've got Texas Tech up, and I think that's a region where it can get hectic.
I would say out of all the regions, Texas Tech's region and Baylor's region could be the craziest.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot up in the air, and it's
I
a
don't
bunch
trust
of good,
Baylor.
not great teams. Yeah, I don't trust Baylor either.
After
Jared
that
Butler hasn't been as good.
the
Maceo
COVID
Teague
pause,
hasn't
man.
been as good. COVID pause killed them. I mean, didn't kill them. They only lost 1 game, but just it's the manner in which they're playing.
They don't look the same.
They don't. Ball's not moving as much. Upsets.
Yeah.
Upsets. Here's my pick. Liberty over Oklahoma State. I know Oklahoma State has Cade Cunningham. I know they have other players around him. At the same time,
Liberty plays great basketball.
Liberty plays dang good basketball, and they shoot 39% from the 3. That's significant. 39% from the 3. If you're going to be outsized, you better be able to shoot over the top. Liberty can do that. And I almost want to compare it to this, Faxon. When Clemson played Florida State at home, what happened? I said, Scotty Barnes is really good, but Nick Honor's going to be able to get up underneath him. Liberty has that same kind of guard that can get up and maybe bother some of Florida State's bigger players.
I can definitely. I'm picking Oklahoma State, but I'm all here for the Liberty love. I think they're a great team. Don't know if this is the best draw for them just because they're playing the #1 pick, and that's obviously not ideal to play Cade Cunningham. But I picked Oklahoma State in this game, but I definitely could see this happening. Liberty's a really good team.
Yeah, and they played well at the beginning of the season. They have a couple of Power 5 wins under the belt. Was it Coach Ritchie, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Coach Ritchie.
They played in
the Space Coast Challenge.
They played the Space Coast Challenge.
They did, and they played well, and they have guys who can shoot it. That's the biggest thing. I think they hit 17 threes or something against Mississippi State down at the Space Coast Challenge.
They blew them out.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. A team that's not scared either. Been there twice in a row. They got some size with the older Golden brother who plays the 5 position for them. They run some inverted Princeton action. They're going to be harder to guard. And Oklahoma State, while they have a lot of athletes and they're very good, high percentage 3-point shooting mid-majors survive.
Oklahoma State's better be locked in on defense. If they get down early, Liberty's just going to keep gunning, and I feel like Cade might start pressing a little bit. But that's going to be a good game. I'm going to definitely be watching that one.
I'm excited about that one. Give me the Flames way over there. Give me those guys. Liberty in an upset. For your upset, thought this was interesting.
Yes,
this is a 3-14. This isn't like minor. This is a big-time upset if it were to be the case.
Listen, Colgate, if you want to go based off of net rankings, Colgate is the best mid-major offensively and defensively. This team can absolutely gun it, all right? Jordan Burns, Patriot League Player of the Year, that's my boy. I've been on him since his freshman year.
I think it was like episode 6. And here he is, episode 6. Or something like that. He can play. 17 a game, 4.5 and 6. And he went off in the tournament last year or 2 years ago.
He had 33 against Tennessee in that I think that one was a 215. I want to say they only lost that game by like 6 points. He hit 8 threes in the tournament game. This dude can absolutely take over a game. He can gun the ball, and he's also creating offense for other players. They've got some good presence inside. They've got 3-point shooters all around. Do not sleep on this Colgate team. This is a really good team.
And they shoot. And it's not just him who shoots it well. You don't average more than 6 assists a game without guys around the perimeter that can shoot it as well. I mean, it's a Colgate team that's dangerous, and they've been good for a long time. They've coached a lot of pros. Matt Langle's a heck of a coach. Coached 20 professionals, one level or another. He keeps getting them. Colgate's an underrated mid-major job.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing well at Colgate. Good players. Anyway, we're going to move on. It's been a year. It's been a wild year. It's been an unpredictable year. And I think we're definitely both enthused. We're happy. We're appreciative that we got through the year, even with pauses. Even with everything going on of that nature.
The fact that the tournament's being played is a major win. That's a win for me.
Major win. There have been some tweets about the food that have been a little unfortunate.
I saw Hunter Dickinson from Michigan posted a picture on his story, and it was not appealing.
Not appealing. Well, he's used to filet mignon up there at Michigan, that's for sure. But I want to talk, before we go, I want to talk about one team that's a quote-unquote potential snub. I'm not sure I agree with it. I think it's deserved. Louisville, to me, didn't look like a tournament team. It was a team that 13-7, didn't really have any big wins. Biggest win was at Duke. Duke wasn't good. It's a team that really never got a chance to show it. Chris Mack acknowledged the fact that they never really got any big wins, quote unquote. I think there's not much debate this year. For the first time in a long time, there hasn't been much debate as far as bubbles are concerned. Maybe Drake, but Drake was 25-2. How could you go against that?
I feel like Louisville and St. Louis both could have made a case to get into the tournament, but like you said, even Chris Mack is like, we didn't beat anybody. And a lot of that was due to COVID pauses, this and that. I would just say right now, don't be surprised if Louisville ends up playing in the tournament one way or the other. There's a chance that they get in one way or the other. There's no way all 64 teams are going to be perfectly healthy and this is going to go smoothly.
But they only need 5 players.
That's
the big part. They only need 5 players. But we're going to move on. On your left, my right, your left, are what we had predicted at the beginning of the year. You can see Virginia at the top, Duke second, Florida State third, North Carolina fourth. Right here, over my right shoulder on your left, is how it finished out. We weren't that far off.
Not too bad. Virginia Tech is so Jekyll and Hyde, man. They ruin everything.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, most improved team, most impressive team of the year. But Duke, I thought they were the most disappointing. I'm going to ask you, most disappointing teams, I want you to name one.
I mean, it's got to be Duke, right?
It's got to be Duke for you?
I just, like, there's no one else that really, well, it's Miami, but, like, with an asterisk because it's not really their fault. They just had their whole team get hurt or transfer out. They've got, I saw Earl
Timberlake's gone.
Timberlake's gone. Cross left in the middle of the season. Likes never even played, and they just had so many injury issues. Like you saw, they're up there 8th for a reason. We'd be talking about them in the tournament if they were healthy. They just got some unfortunate breaks.
I think Georgia Tech. Obviously, I thought they were the most impressive team after those first 2 losses of the season. He started playing them together again in practice. I'm so happy for them because it's the year of the old guy. I know you don't like Georgia Tech, but it's the year of the old guy, and the fact that Pastner was able to run that spread, it's called the spread. It's an inverted Princeton offense. A lot of inverted principles, a lot of backdoor cuts. You got to have a 5-man who can pass. I love Jose Alvarado. He's such a competitor. He does all the right things on the floor, and if there's a 50-50 ball, it's no longer a 50-50 ball. It's a 95-5 ball, and 95% of the time it's going to Alvarado. I love Georgia Tech. I thought they were so impressive this year. We had them pegged as 6th in the conference going in. They end up at 4th, and then they win the championship. Now, I realize they didn't have to play Virginia, but I still say Georgia Tech deserved it. They beat the mess out of Florida State, and they just had them befuddled. Florida State could not turn it over.
Yeah, Georgia Tech was very impressive this year, as it pains me to say, but this team definitely deserved it. Clemson still got the higher seed, though, so we're winners in the end.
They did get the higher seed, which is a little bit. I almost feel bad. I feel like if you're an ACC championship, you should get better than a 9 seed.
Well, maybe don't lose to Mercer and Georgia State. That's why they would.
Yeah, but you wanted to give Miami an asterisk. Give Georgia Tech an asterisk on those first 2 losses.
That's fair enough. But Miami had like a full season asterisk. You got to take it with a grain of salt.
All right, so NC State ended up about where we thought. Duke, obviously the most disappointing. Miami couldn't stay healthy, but that's 2 seasons in a row now Miami can't stay healthy. That's an issue. And it might not be Larinaga, or it might be. He seems to me that he's creeping towards the end of his career. That's obvious. He's 70-something years old. But at the same time, it's almost like, is his coaching style being a little bit of an older gentleman? Is it still conducive to young guys? Because it sounds like it's my way or the highway, and these dudes are hitting Highway 1. Like they're getting and go right back up the coast. Matt Cross, that was a significant loss. I don't think people realize how big a loss that was.
He's really good.
Really good, averaging over 7 boards a game, was shooting north of 40% from 3. He's a player. And whenever he transferred, I was like, oh no, it's about to go downhill for Miami. And then Earl Timberlake's dealing with injury. Beverly's been dealing with it. They lost Rodney Miller earlier in the year, Wardenberg early in the year. It's been tough sledding for Miami, but I would say this upcoming season, not this one, the next season, Larinaga better win.
Are you saying that there's a potential hot seat?
There's a potential hot seat brewing in Coral Gables. Wow. It's at least going to get warm because they're going to get impatient. Miami's Miami. The U is the U. They've done enough losing as far as football's concerned. Are you going to be able to get those guys going again? I've heard rumblings of Chris Likes not being happy down there. A lot of cap space in Miami. A lot of cap space. If you get my drift. That's a William Qualkenbush joke. I'd hate not to give him credit for that, but a lot of cap space. For the most part, though, I thought we had it pretty close. I mean, Pitt, we had them low. Miami didn't have them low. Wake Forest, Boston College, those were obvious. Notre Dame, right in that bottom middle tire. They were so maddeningly inconsistent, but they may be very good next year. Paul Atkinson, a transfer from Yale. It's going to be very good. You're going to have basically everybody back except for Juwan Durham. I like that team.
Seeing the Duke-Notre Dame 1-2 punch at the bottom of the conference is something I cannot say I saw coming. That's weird to look at.
No, Notre Dame, we had them at 12. They ended up, 11. Not too bad. Not too bad. This is from the magazine, though, by the way. If you didn't order it, there's your free peek. That's what it looked like. You saw Let It Fly. We had to change the name. Cease and desist. Can't keep going Let It Fly. Had to change it beyond 22. That's what we're doing around here. First team all conference. On the far left's what we picked. Sam Hauser, Scotty Barnes. I was a little bit overzealous on him because Florida State does not play the type of game that conduces big-time stats. They play a lot of bodies, not enough points for him to really get consideration. Jalen Johnson, probably the biggest disappointment in the country.
I mean,
as far as an individual is concerned, like a lot of top 4 or 5 players, they ended up going to the G League Ignite team. He was one of those big-time guys coming in as a freshman. You thought he was going to be the end-all, be-all at Duke. Ends up leaving with, 3 weeks left to go in the season?
He was good, to be fair. He was good. He had battled some injuries, and then obviously he left. So I'm gonna give you a pass on picking him for the first team because he's a first-team talent. He's obviously still so talented, but
that's an NBA draft thing right there.
Yeah.
That's an NBA draft thing. I mean, he had games where he was really good, played really well against Pitt, had 27 and 14 or something.
He was insane against Clemson, too, unfortunately.
Was really good against Clemson, had an unbelievable dunk. The one I did not see coming, Moses Wright. And I think he was recent. There was a little bit of recency bias, but there had to be this year.
He was on an absolute tear. Like the last month of the season, he didn't play a bad game. He was on an absolute tear, and he deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable the last month. But there was some recency bias. Was he the best all year? Probably not. But the last month he was. Georgia Tech played really well in large part because of him. He drove them to the tournament. He drove them. He didn't drive. He was riding shotgun, though. He didn't drive them to the tournament. Alvarado did. But he was riding shotgun. He got a lot of points. Faxon's visibly displeased for those of you who can't see him off camera. Not a Georgia Tech guy.
Not a Georgia Tech guy.
Not a Georgia Tech guy. But he was phenomenal all year. And let me tell you this. He's older. He's a senior. I don't know if you remember Gani Lawal. Gani Lawal was a guy I played against, McDonald's All-American, 6'10", extremely athletic. He is Gani Lawal with a jump shot. Not quite as tall, but he'll be a serviceable pro if they decide to go that route. It'll be an interesting one. He's going to make a lot of money nonetheless. Garrison Brooks was disappointing.
Dude, I don't know what happened to him. Seriously, he went from, I don't know what happened to Garrison Brooks. He was bad this year. He was bad. For his standards and the pedigree he set last year, I felt like he was the best player in North Carolina last year. You can make an argument he was 3rd or 4th, maybe even 5th this year.
I made this point earlier in the year. It worried me as far as his production was concerned because a lot of his points and a lot of his rebounds were coming off of bad shots from Cole Anthony.
Dude, Cole was chucking it last year.
He was chucking it, and he was getting the ball in different manners this season. He was getting it with his back to the basket. He was having to create some of his own stuff. Last year, he wasn't doing that.
Well, North Carolina is a lot better this year, though. You got to say, like, you could say he took a back seat for the team. We'll put that nicely.
Yeah, what a sweetheart. All right, so Sam Hauser, I just didn't think he was. There were times where he wasn't very good this year.
Really?
There were times where he wasn't good. He was injured. He had guys playing behind him. Wasn't getting as many minutes. But that's neither here nor there. Mike DeVoe, I thought he was going to be better this year. Wasn't. But Carlick Jones, fantastic. Champagne, really fantastic. Only needed one more vote in order to get Player of the Year.
Yeah.
The only double-double guy in conference, 18 and 11. I thought he was really good. Matthew Hurt. I'm a little hurt because, like, if your team's not great, you don't make it to the NCAA tournament, should you really be on first team? I understand that he led the league in scoring, right? But at the same time,
not like he plays any defense either.
Yeah, you get 19 points a game, you give up 22. I mean, who wins the game? And it was obvious this year. Now, if he comes back, dude's going to be a problem because their guards are older and they're going to be better. But
not sold on Roach.
I'll go second team with Hurt. If I was voting, it would have been probably a second or third team Matthew Hurt.
So who would you have replaced him with? Aluma?
Probably. And the recency bias that helped Moses Wright hurt Kive Aluma because they were out basically for 3 weeks. They were out for 3 weeks. And that was an issue this year because he was so spectacular against so many teams and he held his own in the post. I thought Kive Aluma was really good. And he should have been good for longer.
He was fantastic, and you got to give credit. Mike Young is just such an incredible coach. I hate Virginia Tech because I can't read them and I never pick their games right, but I got to tip the cap. They were fantastic all year, especially losing Radford about midway through the season as well and just continuing to chug through the season. Mike Young is a fantastic coach, and, you know, they picked up Storm Murphy in the transfer portal.
That's a big get.
The Wofford transfer.
And you called that.
I did. I texted T.O. about 3 weeks ago. I'm like, Storm Murphy's transferring. He's coming back to Mike Young at VT. So,
well, it worked. It worked for Aluma pretty well. And Storm Murphy, I mean, he's going to be able to play at a high level anywhere he goes. 18 points a game, something like that.
Yeah, 18 in the SoCon. That kid can play. He's able to play for a while.
That's not what we're talking about right now, though.
No.
We're talking about all conference. It does fire me up for Storm. I'm happy he gets an opportunity in the ACC. But these guys right here, I thought Amir, it hurt him. Stats hurt him. And a lot of voters for all ACC, they look at stats.
He's not a stat guy. Amir's an impact guy. He's not a stat guy.
Well, Clemson's not a stat team. I think the coaching style is not a stat coaching style.
Yeah.
Because they're going to slow it down. They're not going to have as many possessions. But he affects winning. And if Clemson would have got a double bye, I think he would have gotten some more respect.
Yeah.
But he had the least votes on the second team. That might be a little bit up in the air. I will say this. It's hard to fault anybody else on that team. Jay Huff was obviously good. MJ Walker was really, really good. Best player on a Florida State team. Averaged a lot of points in games where I think he only averaged 24 minutes a game or something odd.
He's an incredible volume scorer.
Volume guy. I like him a lot. Buddy Boeheim, I almost blame his father because his father didn't even put him in for nomination.
Really?
That's a real thing. So you have to be nominated by the coach, and his dad didn't even put his name in.
Who does Dad nominate?
I think Gerard and Alan Griffin.
Really?
I don't know exactly who, but I do know, like, he didn't even put his son in there, and his son went and absolutely balled out in the ACC tournament. So good for him. But gosh, Kihei Clark was okay, wasn't great.
Expected more from him.
Expected more. Expected it to be. I expected Virginia to be louder in the way they played.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of went away. It's a team that went from I'm playing a lot of defense to I'm going to try to outscore you. And that style wasn't as demonstrative to where they would have had an excuse to vote for him.
So where I'm playing decent offense and not as much defense, and I'm kind of mediocre throughout.
And still
the
managed to win the ACC, which is interesting enough.
You gotta give him credit, yeah.
David Johnson wasn't that good.
No, he wasn't.
Alarmingly so. Picked his three-point percentage shooting up a lot. I will say this, though. Having Carlick Jones come into the fold took away his possessions, and it significantly altered what he was able to do. David Johnson's best with the ball in his hands, and he just wasn't as good as what a lot of people thought. But I'm not sure that's his fault. I think that's a combination of things. The biggest thing being that they tried to slide him off the ball because he's a little bit bigger and let Carlick Jones handle it. Carlick Jones, a volume guy himself, so I'm not sure how much sense that made. But,
'Cause, you know, you got to give him credit, yeah.
David Johnson wasn't that good. No, he wasn't. 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 He Louisville was an interesting case all year. Interesting case all year. Moving on to third team. We weren't far off on this one. Prentice Hub, Baycott, Gerard, obviously we missed on, but Alvarado, I didn't think that he would be as dominant as what he was. And make no question about it. Despite all the eye rolls, Alvarado was dominant this year. I'm so happy that he got second team. I thought he could have easily been first. If Miami's better, Isaiah Wong would have been higher.
He's incredible.
Spectacular all season
incredible.
long. You can just it's funny, like we on a lot of these picks we got the teams right, but the player wrong.
Yeah, like we had Gerard here and Guerrier got it.
Mm-hmm.
Guerrier had a really good year to his credit, especially on paper.
It was Guerrier and Griffin, excuse me.
Yeah.
Now that I say it's Guerrier and Griffin. Baycott was good. I mean, you had to pick somebody from Carolina. I thought they were better.
Baycott got shut down by Amir, I'll tell you that.
They're going to be good next year because I think they're going to keep a lot of guys. This should be interesting enough. Wong was excellent. Raekwon Gray obviously has been really good all season just because he's so dynamic and the things he can do for his offense. College Draymond Green, I think he's better than Draymond Green offensively, not as good defensively. Draymond Green makes his money because of defense, not offense. That's why he won't make as money as Draymond Green. There you have it.
The most Florida State thing ever is having one guy on the second team and two guys on the third team. That's just like the most Florida State thing ever.
Yeah, and Scotty Barnes, freshman of the year, freshman of the year, sixth man of the year, third team All ACC, was really good. Came off the bench, like he did everything asked of him. And I'll be honest, I think he's a top 6 pick in the draft.
Lottery pick. 100%.
I think he's better than Jalen Johnson.
You think Scotty Barnes better than? That's a fair. He's definitely more dynamic.
Well, I know that Jalen Johnson has been shown to be picked higher. If I'm an NBA team, I see Scotty Barnes who can get somewhere off the dribble, who can use a pick and roll, who can pass the ball at a high level. Shot's not broken. Shot looks a lot better than Jalen Johnson.
And I mean, also you got to. I'm not going to say Jalen Johnson is a bad character, but not a great look for him to quit on his team with 3 weeks left in the season. Meanwhile, Scotty, you know, they're going to the NCAA tournament. He's come off the bench. He's accepted his role. He's done everything Leonard's asked of him. So that really bodes well for him. And I think he'll interview really well as well. And that's a big part of it for NBA teams.
Huge part of it. And he's got a high character, 6'9", 6'10", handles the ball. Big fan. All defense. How far off were we? Because we both had Alvarado. We both had Stephen Mitchell just disappeared. Of course, Boston College disappeared from the face of the earth basically in the middle of February.
All those picks are deserved.
All those pitchers, well, maybe not Stephen Mitchell.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and take him off. Anthony Polite. I will say this about Anthony Polite. He's such a good defender, but what he does doesn't lead to stats.
Yeah.
Which hurts you in this case. Alvarado, Defensive Player of the Year, that one's easy. Jordan Goldwire. To be honest with you, very similar to Polite in that, is he going to get a ton of steals? Probably not. But he's going to lock down the opponent's best player, and he's going to do it with a little bit of nastiness to him. Goldwire
is such a good role player to have because he actually brought up his three-point percentage again this year. Obviously, elite defenders. He's on the All-ACC defense team. So, man, if a lot of those Duke guys stay, they could be really good next year. Them and UNC are both – they're kind of in a spot now where neither of them are really one-and-dones, and they're going to have some upperclassmen next year.
Moses Wright made it as well. I thought that was deserved. Good defensive player.
Yeah.
These are screenshots, so it's not a typo. These are screenshots. But Moses Wright, excellent shot blocker, was in the back middle of the zone, whichever zone they were running. Georgia Tech ran a ton of them. Yeah, I mean, I like that all-defensive team. Jawan Durham, I think the fact that Notre Dame was so bad as a whole defensively hurt him.
He was still good on defense, though.
Yeah, he was still okay. Still okay, but
bad team defense.
Horrible team defense. So it makes it difficult for him. All freshmen, I didn't think like we were so far off. I will say this, Shaquille Moore of NC State was the better freshman of him and Cam Hayes. Shaquille Moore I thought was a pleasant surprise. He didn't make the team. He didn't have enough numbers. But Darion Sebron was also good, redshirt freshman from North Carolina. Caleb Love, Earl Timberlake. Earl Timberlake, who's transferring, he could never get healthy. Jalen Johnson, he dipped. Obviously, he doesn't get a vote. Scotty Barnes and Cam Hayes very well could have had a better year, just didn't. And that became an issue. DJ Stewart, do you think he's going to be a good freshman next year?
Yeah, DJ Stewart, I'm a lot more sold on him than I am Roach for that backcourt doing for the Blue Devils. I feel like if he takes the next step next year, he could be a very good player. Already just such an insanely talented scorer. I think he got 15 points a game this year, so he's going to be a force to be reckoned with next year with a year of experience under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Withers is another one. I thought he was really good this season. Needed to step in. Mark Williams got hurt. He had to step in. Was expected to play big minutes. Day'Ron Sharp. Do you think it's possible he comes back?
Yeah, I think it is. I think a lot of these UNC and Duke guys consider coming back, including Matthew Hurt for Duke and Day'Ron Sharp for UNC. I think both of them consider coming back.
If they do, it's going to be a problem for a lot of people. I got a couple of questions via Twitter, and I'm going to let you answer them first because I'm having a hard time finding all of them. So we're just going to make sure we do that. Purdue. I have a Purdue grad in my mentions.
Love Purdue.
What do you think about Purdue and how far they can go?
I think Purdue. I have Purdue in my Elite Eight. I have them beating Baylor. I think Purdue can go a long way. I've watched a lot of Purdue basketball. Weirdly enough, one of my good friends is a Purdue fan. You got Jaden Ivey. You got Zach Edey coming off the bench. You got Trevion Williams. Got Wheeler. Got Hunter Jr. This is a very deep team. The Boilermakers are very good. I watched the entirety of the recent game they played against Wisconsin, I think it was, and Edey, I think, had 21 in that game. He's going to be a size mismatch for a lot of teams in the tournament. You throw a 7'5" guy out there, he's going to be really difficult to deal with. And the key for Purdue, can Trevion Williams stay out of foul trouble? If Trevion Williams can stay out of foul trouble, they can compete with anyone. Matt Painter's a fantastic coach. I don't have enough good things to say about them. And they're so young, too. They're going to be so good next year.
Yeah, they are going to be really good. The size really helps you.
Yeah, it does.
During tournament play. Where do you have Clemson losing? I talked a little bit about that earlier. West Virginia. It's going to be a tough matchup. A lot of size on the perimeter. They can shoot over the top, and they shoot it very well. So I'm going West Virginia there. Do we have any more questions on your end?
I'm looking at the Facebook comments right now. It's really just off of earlier. It's more just comments. It's about Illinois being the best. You had an Illinois supporter in the comments saying that they're the best team. People saying they have Illinois, so not really any questions. We did say that they think Clemson can dirty it up with West Virginia. Play some physical basketball.
They could do that, but they're too. I mean, West Virginia's just bigger, and they played in the Big 12, which was a bigger league this year, and better league, quite frankly. I thought it makes it tough sometimes, and being small eventually catches up with you, especially in the backcourt.
Yeah.
You know, I love Nick Honor. Has he been as consistent as I would like? No. But he's also hit some huge shots.
Do you think part of that is due to rotations and the fact that I feel like just watching Nick, I feel like he's a rhythm player. So do you feel like part of the reason Nick hasn't been able to get into a groove is because he's getting pulled out every 4 minutes? Do you think that has an impact on it?
Oh. What do you think?
I think it definitely has an impact on it. I think that the depth is a great thing for Clemson. I feel like, you got so many good players. It's just like, when you're switching people out every 4 minutes, it's kind of hard to let people get in a rhythm.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. We had a couple of other questions. I'm having a hard time finding them, so I'm just going to apologize beforehand. But what a year. You have anything to say about this year in general? Not just Clemson, not just whoever else, but what about this year? Biggest surprise of the year nationwide?
Ooh, biggest surprise nationwide? I'm going to say Illinois. I thought that would be really good, but I did not think that Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn would take their games to this level. I knew about Ayo last year because he had a monster game against Penn State, I think it was. He played really well against Purdue, too, but I did not see him becoming one of the best players in the nation. So I'm going to say Illinois is the surprise of the year for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Ayo Dosunmu was going to be pretty good. Big size, handles the ball well, really athletic. I want to talk about this, and that'll be the last thing, and then we will move on to cheering on whoever it is you picked, depending on whatever game. I hope everybody filled out a bracket. That would be good. Make sure you sign up for 1055 bracket.
Yeah.
That'll be good. That's important. And also, what is it? Paws for pets, pets for pots.
Pops for pups.
Pops for pups. Pops for pups. That's a big thing that Mark Childress puts on. You want to play some golf? Play a little par 3 action? Make sure you get a hold of it. Popsforpups.com, correct?
I'm pretty sure it is.
You go ahead. Popsforpups.com. It's your little sister who started it, started selling popsicles, donates to the animal shelters, correct?
The K9 Fetch Unit.
The K9 Fetch Unit, who
Yes.
does a lot of work for children in the hospital, a lot of, what's the right word? Not recovery dogs, but therapy dogs.
Therapy dogs.
For a lot of those in need and sick, and it's a great cause for a good thing. If you want to come and play golf with me, Eric McClain will be there, Kelly Gramlich, Qualk. Everybody's going to be there. Mark Childress will be there. Legendary Facts and Childress. I'm assuming you'll be there, of course.
I will more than likely be there, yes.
He will be there without question. His dad's running it.
I'll be there.
Make sure you do that. Popsforpups.com. If you can't find it there, find it on Twitter. I'll hit the retweet button as well. Let It Fly breakout candidates. I thought we hit the nail on the head with a bunch of these, Faxon.
Yeah.
Or I think I hit the nail on the head. You agreed with a lot of these, but sure.
Isaiah Wong is the best call.
Yeah, Isaiah Wong, Quincy Guerrier's there. I thought Ethiel Horton at Pitt was good. Josh Nickelberry wasn't as good as what I thought. Jericho Helms was.
Cohn had an underrated year. He was good. Jordan Usher was good.
Boy, was I wrong about Duke and Virginia. And Clemson, for that matter. Just to throw one under the bus. I thought Chase was going to be better, dealt with a lot of injuries. And to be honest with you, a lot of the guys on there that didn't perform that well dealt with injuries. Chase dealt with a lot of injuries. Anthony Harris, he finally got back. I thought he could have played more, to be honest with you. And then Casey Morsell never really quite took that step. But Nate Laszewski, you talk about Isaiah Wong being the right pick. Nate Laszewski's right there with him. Scored a lot of points. Finally got some opportunity. Notre Dame needs a level of toughness that they didn't have this season. They need somebody who's going to get in your face. They need the meanest JUCO dude on the planet to sign and go to South Bend. Bring some attitude to that squad. They'll be all right.
JUCO dude on the planet.
Meanest JUCO dude on the planet. There's some mean JUCO dudes. I've recruited them. There's some mean JUCO dudes. Get the mean ones. Bring the meanest dude. What was the guy who played at Florida State and then had to go JUCO? Robert Swift ended up in China forever.
Yeah.
Mean dude. Get some mean JUCO dudes in Notre Dame, and you'll be formidable because you've got enough talent, you've got enough skill. There's got to be enough. I don't know what the word is that I'm allowed to say. There's got to be enough testicular fortitude on that team. Like, you got to be able to go and take it. Got to be able to go and take it. Jalen Cohn was fine. Looking back, the reason I'm looking this way is because I can see the screen, that screen over here. So in case anybody's wondering what I'm looking at. Jordan Usher, okay. Winston Tabbs, dealt with injury, didn't listen to COVID protocol, transferred to East Carolina. That's going to be a good get for Coach Dooley over there.
Yeah.
A lot of good players on that list. A lot of good players. We didn't miss on a bunch of them. We got a lot of them right. I thought Anthony Polite was good. Just a matter of growing. Just a matter of growing. I hate that I couldn't find my questions. That's typical, though.
Yeah.
We've struggled with questions this year.
Yeah.
We'll get better. We'll get better. I think that's it. Are we good? Yeah, Faxon?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Faxon, thank you so much, man.
Of course.
Appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it. Will we come back next week? I think we will. I think Clemson's going to end up getting a couple, moving on to the Sweet 16, and we'll discuss further. As far as film is concerned, I'm going to break down Rutgers, but they don't play until Friday, so I'm going to take a little time to get over towards that direction. You will see a film breakdown, a quick 10, if you will, on Rutgers, probably coming close to Wednesday. But NCAA tournament, best time of the year, a lot of coaching changes. We'll address that next week as well. And we might as well just do a weekend review. We'll go through on each player, and we'll talk about what we can expect. Anyway, this has been Beyond 22 Basketball. My name's Terrence Oglesby for Facts and Childress. We will see you next week, and thanks again for watching.